The title of this video is Why Didn't She Scream? Why didn't she scream? Now we will be going to the Bible, but before we do that, this is a Bible study. I already prayed. Because of the subject matter, we'll be doing things a little bit differently. But it is a Bible study. I want to make that perfectly clear. Now, here's the deal. I was watching a couple of shows, and basically it was a man and a female, his woman, his girlfriend or whatever you want to call it, wife, girlfriend, fiance, whatever you want to call it, but they were definitely official together. But somehow another man, in both these movies, somehow another man got into the situation. Now, initially, he just took her. He literally took her, forced himself on her, and it would definitely be rape. Now, in either case, she never screamed. And he was in the house with them. And a lot of times the other guy, her man, would be in the house, but he'd be in a different room or working on something or doing that. And while he's in a different room, this guy is raping his woman. And she's crying and everything, but you know, she never screams. And it got to the part where she will, like he even took his hands off her. You know, he even took his hands off her, and she would still be doing everything, like everything, willfully. Now, right before we go further, because I know people think I'm trying to make a. I'm not trying to make anything. I'm telling you what happened, and I'm also going to tell you some more stuff why I'm saying this. Because right away, some people say, "Well, you don't understand what it's like for that to happen," and blah blah blah. And you'd be surprised what I understand. That's why I said, listen before you just so sure you know what I want to say. Because I haven't said anything yet. I just told you facts of what I saw. So before we go further and start to analyze what and why didn't she scream? You know, the guy with her man was in the other room. She never did. And then, like I said, she began to willfully become a participant in this, even though it initially started off as a rape. Now I used to date a woman who was always on the go. Nothing was going to stop her from getting what she wanted and doing what she wanted to do. And I had to respect her for that. But she told me one time, and she wasn't lying, you know, because she always carried Trojans or whatever. She always had Trojans with her. And of course, I'm her boyfriend now, so why are you still carrying Trojans with you? And this is what she told me, and I totally believe her. You gotta understand. I knew her very well, because not only was she somebody I was in a relationship with, she also was like my best friend, because she was thugged out like me, so we were like best friends as well. But she told me, she said, "Listen, if I get raped," because she was always on the go, she was not going to stop. She said, "If I get raped, I'm just protecting myself." And she said, you know, what it is. So we're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk more about that because how men don't, they just think from a male perspective. And so automatically the name calling is going to start with a guy because he's not going to try to understand from that position. And I just want to address it before we go into what the Bible says. And even then, that's why I said this is not a video where I'm going to give you all what I think. This is not a video where I'm trying to say, oh, somebody's this or somebody's that. This is just something I'm putting out there because it's just something that came to me. Because you have to understand, throughout history and civilizations, men may be with women and they may be in a certain city or town, but that city or that town or that area gets invaded. And so their men might be killed even right in front of them. Their men might be killed, but these men take them women, and those women actually become like their wives. I'm not saying every single one of them. Some of them probably fight and get killed. But a lot of those women just go on with their lives. And you say, wow, how is that possible? So now, before we get into the Bible study aspect, let's go back to how does this how does this happen? Because in the movies I saw, both times initially the guy waited till he knew he had her alone with him, and that's when he did it the first time. So even if her man was there, he wouldn't have heard her if she did scream. But it just got to the point that he was doing this because he was in the house with them. The other guy just didn't know that he was raping his girl, his woman. But it just got to the point that even when he was in the house, she wouldn't scream. Now, the question is initially, would she have screamed initially? And I would say probably, because if the guy was in the house and this is the first time, because you're afraid, you don't even know if this guy's going to kill you. Now, somebody might right away say, well, that shouldn't be the reason she should be screaming because, boom, boom, boom. She's with somebody else and shit. And like I said, we're going to talk about it. But you just got to remember what I'm trying to tell you. Um, and not saying, there'll always be some women that scream. Just like there's always going to be some that do and some that don't. Like in anything you do, men are the same way. But one of the things that came up is this: a female may feel like, okay, I've just been raped. Now, if I tell my man that I was raped, it's a good chance he's gonna leave me. Because a lot of people know there have been, daughters have told their mothers they were raped, and the mother didn't believe them and smacked them and all that. And like women, they don't need that. They don't want that stigma. They don't want that gossip. They don't want that stigma. And what I'm trying to tell you is I'm not justifying anything. I'm just telling you like it is. Because right away people say, well, what would you rather have? The stigma or the act or yada, yada, yada. But you have to understand with some women, in her mind, she's saying, if I did tell him that this guy raped me, he may not want to be with me no more. So that's one of the first things she's going, like her normalcy, her love life, it's all over with. But some people say, but why would she continue it to happen? And that's a good question. See, all this stuff is based on facts. You know, all this stuff is based on facts. And a lot of times a female may feel like the man should be protecting me. Like, why are you leaving this man in the house with me? And why are you leaving this man in a room with me alone? So it's things that go on with that. Not justifying anything. Not justifying anything. But the question is, why didn't she scream? And that's not to put her down. Not one time did you hear me put her down. I'm asking, why didn't she scream? And there's a reason why I'm asking that when we get to the scriptures. And again, I'm still not saying I'm pro or con. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm just looking at the situation. So somebody might say, well, let me ask you a question. Suppose he was violent. Do you think she would have told then? And I'm probably, yeah, because she would have been scared for her life. So then somebody says, oh, so then she could scream if she wanted to. No matter whether she screamed in the beginning or later on and just went and told her husband, this guy's raping me. So how come she never did? And again, like I said, honestly, um, that's like that weird stuff. It's that weird stuff that humans do. And again, everybody's not like that. But here goes another movie I saw. It was a Nicolas Cage movie. Some of y'all might remember this movie a long time ago. Nicolas Cage played a criminal. And he had teamed up with a psychopath that was a criminal. So again, Nicolas Cage character, his girl, and the criminal was like in the kitchen. And for some reason, Nicolas Cage's character had to leave the kitchen. The moment he left the kitchen, that psychopath immediately pushed up on his woman but he was very intimidating. So the first thing he did to her, he kind of intimidated her. He like got up in her face and was really up on her. So you could see how she would be scared to say anything. He really intimidated her. Then while he was intimidated her, he started, doing whatever, and without being too graphic, but he began to stimulate her the whole time. And remember, Nicolas Cage's character is still in the house, and she never screamed. So now they're in the kitchen. This guy is doing what he's doing to her, and she's getting all hot because of what he's doing to her. And he begins to say stuff to her. Tell me you want me to do this to you, like sexually, and all that. So she's saying it. She's saying, do it to me, and all that. And then he says to her, no, I don't have sex with sluts. And he pulled his hand out, and then he walked out the kitchen and found where Nicholas was at. But nobody ever told Nicholas, not him or the female, what just happened. But he wanted to prove to himself that she wasn't about shit, and he wanted to prove to himself that he could get her to say all kind of stuff, even though she was officially his partner in crime's girl. But he wanted to do that. And once he did that in that particular scenario, that's how he got satisfied off of her, just proving that she wasn't about shit. But again, this is the movie. This is how it went down. The other time, it was an interview with this black man. He was an older black man, but they were interviewing him because he was a member of an organization from the 1960s. But now he was an old man. And they said to him, you don't drink, do you? He said, no. They said, do you ever drink? He said, no. They said, man, you lived on this planet. You're almost 70. You're almost like 80 years old. You don't drink? He said, no. He said, why don't you drink? He said, well, one time I was hanging out with my friend. We was all over his house with his wife and everything. And my friend would overdrink. And when he would overdrink, he would pass out. And he said the moment he passed out, his wife just became like highly sexual. He said, so that taught me never ever put yourself in a situation where you're not alert. He said because you don't know what's happening when you're passed out. So the first thing would be people would say, well, you don't know what it's like to have somebody force themselves on you. And as a woman, she's worrying about her life at first. Plus, she's worrying that the guy's not going to be with her no more because that happens. And she can't talk about it because she can't tell this. She can't tell her man, I don't want him over here because he's going to go, why? And she's not going to say because he raped me. Under these scenarios that I'm talking. But because she doesn't speak up, he's still over there. And every time he gets her alone, he's going to rape her again. But now, like I said, it got to the point he actually had taken his hands off her. She was willfully doing all kind of stuff to him. And then somebody said, well, that happens when you like a kidnapped victim. If you take a kidnapped victim and victimize them, they start to act like you. Like there was a woman named Patty Hearst that did that. They kidnapped Patty Hearst. They were bank robbers. And they kidnapped her, and before long, she was robbing banks with them. But the title of this is, why didn't she scream? We're not saying she should have screamed initially, because initially there was nobody there. It was just the man and her. She didn't know him that well. She didn't know she didn't know if he was crazy. She didn't know if he would try to kill her. So we understand that. But how come later on? And we would ask the question, was she right? Was she right by, now she's actually joining in with the guy. So it's still rape, and like she is still a victim, but now she's actually willfully doing everything to this guy. And her man or whatever is literally in the next room. Like in the next room taking a nap, or in the next room doing something. So let's go back. One person said, well, she's afraid that her husband is going to leave her. But at the same time, if her husband knew what you were doing now, willfully, he would leave you too. So it's almost like you're forced into a situation between a rock and a hard place, but you're making it harder. And I guess because she felt she had no way out. But at the same time, she would have found a way out if it was violence. Like if her life was really at stake, I'm sure she would have told somebody or found some type of way out. But because it was really sexual, which it can be pleasurable, she didn't see a need to get out of it. She just had a need to hope her husband doesn't find out, or her man doesn't find out what the hell's going on. So we have to be honest about this. She was a victim in the beginning, but at some point, for whatever reason, you could say psychological reason, where the victim becomes whatever, the victim becomes like the captive. You could say whatever it is, but now she is somewhat guilty. Because again, the question is still going to be, why didn't she scream out of all those events? This went on for a while now. This went on for a while. It wasn't like no one or two incidents. That guy was banging her out on a regular. So that was the first one. Well, she was worried that if she did tell, her husband might leave her, or her reputation would be stained, and these are the type of things that women worry about. But unfortunately, because she didn't talk, it prolonged. And in an initial case, somebody would have said, well, like I said, I didn't know the guy could have been a murderer. He could have been a serial killer. So I didn't know what to do. So I just did whatever he told me to do because I was scared for my life. And initially, like I said, that would be accepted initially, like the first time or something like that. But once you saw this guy wasn't really a murderer, but he still was a rapist, but now you're willfully participating. So what I'm trying to tell y'all is we can't justify the reasoning, no matter how hard you try. What we can say is initially when she didn't know if the guy was crazy or not or this or that, we could understand why she may not have resisted or told or screamed. But we can't justify all the many multiple times he was banging her out and she still never screamed and the husband was right there in the house or whatever he was, a boyfriend, fiance, whatever, he was right there in the house, right, sometime almost in the very next room. So she wasn't even like crying or making any type of noise that where he would go, hey, what's going on? She is all quiet so they didn't find out. And I gave you about 3 examples where other men have came in and just took her. And she went along with them. Again, not blaming her. This is an analysis. Just looking at the facts. And that doesn't mean I'm not trying to understand emotionally. But the truth of the matter is, like anything else, when you keep on making up excuses and excuses, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Like if you go, oh, tomorrow I'll do it. Oh, tomorrow. Oh, something came up, so maybe tomorrow. You keep making up excuses. That's what's going to happen. But like I said, there are strong differences between men and women, and these are some of it. And y'all got to understand, I have a life of growing up. A lot of stuff I know. That's why I'm able to tell you all stuff as well. But there are some women that'll stay with a man that they really don't even want to be with him or like them, but they're scared because he's kind of like forceful and stuff like that. But if she had her way, she probably would leave. And then there's a lot of women that just stay with people because they're scared of where am I going to go, where I'm going to stay, and bills, who's going to pay the, stuff like that. So women are different than men. All right. So now, like I told y'all, this was a Bible study. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 22 speaks about matters such as this. But it speaks about a lot of things in Deuteronomy chapter 22. And so I don't want to, the study guide that I am wants to read the whole chapter and study it. But then I will lose a lot of people. So let's stay on the topic. We're just finding scriptures that deal with this. But we are going to read this. Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. Now, that's a big thing. Now, again, here's the deal. We're no longer under the 10 Commandments because Messiah died at the cross and finished the law, completed it, fulfilled it. But still, you can know how God views certain matters. Because most of the time when a black guy goes to Hollywood to be whatever great comedian or whatever he's trying to do, trying to get that Hollywood money or whatever, they go out of their way to turn him into a woman, either sexually having sex with this guy, turning him into a female in that sense, or they make him wear a wig. I mean, wear a dress and dress up like a woman. So once again, you can see how this person is out of harmony with what God has said not to do. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all, even with tonight's study. You're dealing with people that are not going to do what God says to do. And then they wonder why their life has all these problems. Neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are abomination unto the Lord thy God. That was Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5. Okay, well, keep looking. Thou shalt not plow an ox and an ass together. So that's interesting. Deuteronomy 22, verse 10. Thou shalt not wear a garment of divers sorts, as of woolen and linen together. And then that's what he tells you to wear fringes, because that's what the Hebrews do. Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou coverest thyself. Okay, so here we go. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 13. If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her and give occasion. Now remember, this now y'all gotta understand what's going on here, because they asked Jesus Christ about this in Matthew chapter 19. They said Moses gave us the okay to divorce our wives, and Jesus said Moses gave you that law because of your hard hearts and hard heads. He said, but if you go back to the beginning, back to Adam and Eve, marriage was supposed to be eternal, till death do you part. So you got to remember that when I'm reading this. And I'm reading this for a reason, because it's leading up to what happens when a woman, when somebody tries to violate a woman. What did God say about it? If any man take a wife and go into her and hate her and give occasions of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity until the elders of the city in the gate. So he's trying to say, listen, I wanted her thinking she's a virgin or whatever, and I don't think she's no virgin. So then he got to tell the elders and tell her mother and her father, and they got to come to the gate. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders. Now y'all got to understand, the word damn keeps being shown in these verses. In Daniel chapter 22, he keeps saying damn. So there's a reason for everything that's being said. Remember that. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter until this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he has given occasion of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid, and yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. So that, see, y'all never knew that. See, the Bible definition of a maid is like a female is supposed to be a virgin. Like an unmarried female is supposed to be a virgin. You never knew that till tonight. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. And the elders of the city shall take that man and chastise him. So in other words, if the man was saying, listen, this woman ain't no maid, she ain't no virgin, she's supposed to be my wife. I went into her and she ain't no maid, she ain't no virgin. I don't want to be with her. So the mother and the father of that woman got to come tell the elders, he's lying. We can prove that she's a maid, that she's still a virgin. And once they do that and show it to the elders, and the elders accept that as proof, then they're going to chastise the husband. And they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he had brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. So you can't be disrespecting a virgin now. They're gonna take up for you if you're a virgin. But if you're not a virgin, you might be on your own. They might stone your ass if you're not a virgin. But if you're a virgin and this man say you not, then they're gonna make him pay. They're gonna chastise him, because he has brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel, and she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all his days. So they fine him basically. They fine him 100 shekels of silver for saying, listen, man, you gave me your daughter, and she ain't no maid, she ain't no virgin. I want out of this. And though the mother and father prove that she is a virgin, and the elders chastise that man, say now you got to pay the father a disrespect fee. Because when you in the street, that's how it go down. Any real street dude hear me talking. When you violate in the street, you have to pay somebody something. So they make him pay the father, and then he got to be with that woman, even though he talking crazy about her. But now, if you know that, you know to watch your mouth. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure before you make accusations. But people say stuff like that. Like I said, like nowadays, people jump into marriage, and for any old reason, they want to jump out the marriage. But like in God's day, you can't do that. And God said, if you do it now, you could go to hell just for that. Because marriage is supposed to be to death do you part, unless it's some form of fornication or something. But listen, now what if it's true? Now this is what God said if it's true. If the man ain't lying. The man said, hey, listen, I wouldn't know this woman. She ain't no virgin. She ain't no maid. So God said, but if this thing be true, I'm in verse 20, Daniel 22, verse 20. But if this thing be true, and the tokens of virginity be not found for the damsel, then they shall bring out the damsel to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her with stones that she die, because she has wrought folly in Israel, to play the whore in her father's house. So shalt thou put evil away among you. All right, now let's go back. Now we don't know what's going on here, but God said you can't be no whore. And we're going to talk about, well, what if a man forces himself on her? We're going to talk about that in Deuteronomy 22. But he's letting you know right now, if you having sex with somebody else, or if you had sex before marriage, and now this man marries you, and he find out you ain't no maid, you ain't no virgin, they got to kill you. They got to stone you. Now, y'all might not have saw the difference, but one was the gateway, where the elders were. And now it's the doorway, where the judgment is. Woo! Ha ha! You can either go in through the gateway or go out through the door. Which one is it going to be? Now remember, I think there's a door in Matthew 25. Now, I'm in verse 10, Matthew 25, verse 10. When the foolish virgins went to buy, because they didn't have oil and stuff for their lamps, so they had to went to buy. When they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. And I guess that's the door of the Father's house. In my Father's house there's many abodes. In my Father's mansion there's many abodes. But not for these people. The door has been shut. Now, here we go, y'all. Deuteronomy 22:22. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Now, anybody that heard me talking, if you were listening, should that woman be put to death? Some of y'all going to say, no, it's not right because she was raped. It's not something she chose to do. The man raped her. But the argument's going to be, okay, the first time he raped her. But it became a time when she began to willfully engage with him. She was just as freaky as he was. I'm not saying she should both die. I'm just asking y'all a question. Why didn't she scream? She had ample time to scream or tell, and she never did. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Now you got to understand this is ancient Hebrew. Let me explain something to you. If you were seen regularly with the same female in those days, you two were considered married or about to get married. The elders would already come up to you and find out what are your intentions and where you going. Or the girl's father might come up to you. The elders might go to the father and mother and say, has that young man spoken to you about your daughter yet? Because we see them two hanging out a lot. What's his intent? They would find out. Also, if you had your own little whatever tent or whatever they had back then, tent, whatever you had, tabernacle, tent, whatever you want to call it. But if that woman came and she hung out by your tent or went inside your tent, you were automatically considered married. Because they felt like should no woman be coming in and out of your tent if you're not married, because you're not going to rob folly. We're not going to have no whores in Israel. So you ain't going to have no women coming and going out of your tent because we don't know what's going on inside, and we have to assume that it's not wholesome. So just to avoid having to stone both of y'all, we just going to treat both of y'all like y'all married if y'all hanging out that close. Deuteronomy 22 verse 22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lied with the woman and the woman. Now, why did God say it twice? Because right away somebody gonna say, wait. Oh, are you saying a woman should be killed too? And he's saying, yeah. That's what I said. Did you hear me the first time? Let me repeat myself. Both of them to be killed. And make sure you know who I'm talking about. Both. I'm a identify it. So that thou shalt put evil away from Israel. So again, God is saying it's evil if a man and a woman is having sex and you know you got a man. And let me just ask y'all something. Maybe she's right and maybe she's wrong. But how does she don't, I mean, women got really good intuition and stuff, but you don't know if he would have left you. You don't know if your husband would have left you if somebody raped you. I mean, a man, he might have went and killed the man or something like that. And even if he killed the man, he wouldn't do a whole lot of time in jail because the guy's a rapist. A man has a right to defend his wife or his woman. So what I'm trying to tell y'all is everything she's doing is based on her own mindset. And that's why now she's just as perverted as the guy. Because the guy, like I say, he was a rapist. He's a pervert. But she's doing everything he wants her to do now. But that's because she never yelled. She never told. She never did anything. Now she loves it just like he does. So if you think verse Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 22 doesn't apply to her, you're wrong. She's willfully engaging in the acts now. Unfortunately, it no longer matters that it wasn't always like that she really is a victim. But not anymore, because now she's willfully deciding to say, I'm not going to tell my husband. He's in the next room. We're going to do this, and I'm still not going to tell my husband. And I don't even think she even knows why she doesn't want to tell. Whereas before she knew why she didn't want to tell him. Now she doesn't even know no more. But according to God's word, if they were found having sex, they would both be put to death. We're not even talking about what happened in the beginning. Because even then, it would be hard to prove that to people. Like if she tried to prove in the beginning that she was raped, some women would probably say, I believe her. But a lot of people would say, oh, no, she wasn't. She been cheating on her husband. They finally got caught. And now she's about to be killed. And now she's lying, trying to play the victim card. But if she is a victim, how come she ain't never scream? And how come she ain't never tell nobody? She ain't no different than that guy. They both gonna be put to death. And this is what God is saying. Both of them. The man and the woman. Verse 23. Deuteronomy 22, verse 23. If a damsel that is a virgin betroth unto a husband, and a man finds her in a city, and lie with her. Now this is what God said. So this is what should have happened in the beginning. Now listen, y'all. Let the Bible talk to you. Not your human reasoning. Because that's what I'm saying. That woman used her human reasoning. And now she's just as perverted and disgusting as the guy that raped her in the beginning. Because everything he's making her do now, she's willfully doing. Husband be in the next room and she's still doing it. Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of the city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, or she did not scream, because she cried not, being in the city. Now look what God says. You're in the city. How is it that a man raped you? You're in a city filled with people, but yet you cried not. And again, I'm only showing you what the Bible is saying. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. The purpose of this video is to ask questions to get people to think about it. Because there's still going to be people saying, you don't understand whether it's the city or not. It doesn't matter. She may have been afraid for her life. She was afraid. He could have been the murderer. But I'm showing you because she didn't scream at any time. I mean, he was banging her out throughout the movie, y'all. She had many times she could have screamed. It was times when her husband was just like in the next room. And he was still doing her. And she never screamed, never said nothing. She did everything the man wanted her to. And showing initiative herself. Because listen, the truth of the matter is, this is what's going to happen when you keep doing something. Like alcohol, drugs, or anything else. You start to get addicted to it. And I'm going to tell you, this is all I'm trying to say. Had he been violent in the beginning, I bet she would have told. Like if she thought her life was at stake, she would have told. So I'm trying to tell you, if y'all think she wasn't enjoying it to some degree, you're wrong. She was. And that's why she never told. You can keep on making reasons for it if you want to. But God's not a fool. God is not one to be mocked. Whatever you're sowing, you're going to reap. Because God is saying in Deuteronomy 22 verse 24, you were in the city and you chose not to cry out. You chose not to scream. You were in a city with all these people. Somebody could have helped you. You would have had witnesses that you are a victim. Now you have no witnesses that you're a victim. This is going on for a while. And now I have to have both of y'all put to death. Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 24. Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not. Now if you notice, normally God blames the man first. Adam! Yeah, God knew who sinned in the garden. God knew that whole scenario. But he screamed, he called Adam. Normally, God calls the man first. This time, he's calling a woman. Why? You were betrothed to another man, but yet you're lying down with this man in the city where all you had to do was scream and somebody would have heard you, and you chose not to scream. Because you cried not, you both die. The damsel because she cried not, being in the city, and the man because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you. Because God said thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife. So y'all got to understand what happened when they asked Jesus about marriage and divorce. And he kind of referred them to Deuteronomy 22. But he also referred them to the Garden of Eden. So in God's eye, if you did the sin, you're going to be held accountable for it, whether you're a man or a woman. Deuteronomy 22, verse 25. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her. But now I want to stop right here. Because I thought we already talked about it. They were in the field. Woo! This is deep. So in verse 23, if a woman's in the field, because back in the day, they be working in the field. Like if you read the book of Ruth, Ruth used to be a hard worker. So she would be in the field out there by herself. So when Boaz found out that Ruth was out there working late night by herself, he commanded his servants to make sure she was protected at all times. But if you study, Ruth and Boaz was both in the field by themselves alone, and they lied together. They didn't have sex though, but they lied together. But that's because he knew she'd be out there by herself and stuff. And that's where your Jesus Christ came out of the bloodline of Ruth and Boaz. David's father Jesse, King David's father Jesse, came out of the bloodline of Ruth and Boaz. So now the first time, verse 23, when you take verse 23 and compare it to verse 25, so verse 23 is about two people that just got it on. He found her in the field and they just started getting busy. Even though she was betrothed to another man. So she really was a whore. Now I don't think anybody's going to argue that one. Because there wasn't no force. He doesn't talk about force in number 25. So the female in 23 just got busy. But he still talked about screaming. So that makes a lot more sense to me. Because God say I ain't stupid. God is saying I know this is a booty call. That's why you was in the city and you ain't scream, you ain't cry out, because he ran up on you. Whether he must have had a good game, or maybe y'all was had some type of thing going on, and you was out in the field or whatever. But he said, find her in the city. Wow, that takes on a whole new meaning, though. Find her in the city and lie with her. Oh, so that's a hookup. I get it. That's a hookup. Yo, I'll meet you at the hotel in the city and shit. Oh, I get it now. See, I always thought this verse was about somebody in the field. All right, I got it. It's coming now. So that's a hookup. That's a booty call. Yo, I'm going to meet you in the city. So God was like, yo, this is in the city. So it's obviously this was a hookup. You a whore. Now you got it. Y'all both going to be put to death. Okay, so that's the connotation for 23 and 24. That's a hookup. We're going to say verse 23 and 24 is a hookup. Now, like I said, I'm on a woman's side initially. The woman I'm talking about, this movie I saw. Because initially that was straight up rape. He stalked her, he waited, and he went on and got it. And she ain't know if he was going to kill her or not. So the first time I already said that was a straight up rape. All right? So let's go to 25, because that's what we're talking about. If a man forced himself on her, so that's a rape. Now we talking about rape. So what I'm going to do, verse 23 to 24, I'm going to say a booty call. A booty call in the city. Ha ha! But the next one is forced sex, which we're going to put in parentheses rape. Verse 25. Thank you, Lord, for this understanding. Verse 25. Deuteronomy 22, verse 25. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field. Now it's in the field. All right. Now I'm where I'm supposed to be. It's not in the city, y'all. This is in the field. And the man force her and lie with her. Then the man only that lay with her shall die. All right, God. I got it. But unto the damsel thou shalt not do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, so is this matter. Now he's referring to Cain and Abel, and they had another law. Like if a man rose up against another man and killed him, he could flee. But if he fled, one of the relatives of that man that was killed could hunt him down and kill him. And even if he ran to a city of refuge, they couldn't hold him because he was a murderer. But if he was an unintentional slayer of life, then he could run to a city of refuge, and they would protect him from the avenger. Right? But now listen, y'all. But now if y'all listening to what I'm saying, verse 25 and 26 condemn that female. Why? Because she was forced the first time. But it got so many times, she never ever told. And it got so bad that she was now just as perverted as the guy that was raping her. Because everything he wanted her to do, she was doing willfully. But that's because she never told. So she still could be liable to be put to death. Now, the only thing that would save her is because she was forced the first time. So maybe somebody could reason that because she is a victim, she's a victim of, forced rape. She's a victim that may have psychologically affected her. So she may or may not be put to death. But it's still going to be hard for them to prove. They say, well, she was in the house with her husband. She could have cried out. She never did. And it was despicable what she was doing in that man's house when he was in the very next room. So that's I think she'd be put to death, personally. But who am I? But that's wonderful. See, you learn. If y'all didn't know this, see, you learned how wonderful God is. He said nothing should be done to the woman. He took up for her. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. But that man is put to death. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when the man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, so is this matter. For he found her in the field, and but listen, I spoke a little too soon. Now listen, y'all, verse 27. For he found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. Okay, but what if she didn't cry? Woohoo! So I think if she didn't cry, that go back up to verse 23 and 24, y'all. What if she didn't cry? What if she is like this woman? Rape me, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry out. Rape me in the field. And you can keep raping me after that. I'm just not going to tell. I'm not going to cry out. I'm going to handle it my way. Listen, I'm going to tell you all the truth. You might, let's just say this is a female and she got some relatives or something that are not good people. And maybe she's a good person, right? but they kind of incite her to do something that they do, something bad. She might cry at first, but she still says, well, that's still family, and blood is thicker than water. All right, so you might cry at first and you might be sad, but at some point, you just as bad as they are. You understand? You can't keep saying, oh, I'm a good person, I got a good heart, because you still is doing the same thing they doing now. Even though you didn't initially do it at first, now you as bad as they are, and now you hiding information. You understand? So now you covering up for them. You just as guilty as they are. But the bottom line was, the reason why this woman in verse 25, 26, and 27 was not guilty, because she was in the field, she did cry out, but there was nobody to save her, and he banged her out anyway. And what happened after he raped her, she probably came back to this town or wherever she came and told the people what happened, and they went to get him to put him to death. That's how it's supposed to be according to God. Because once you are out of harm's way, how the hell you not going to speak up? Plus, when you want to talk about dignity, now I need y'all to hear what I'm about to say, because now the Spirit of God is talking now. I wanted to get all the facts in. Now, you want to talk about dignity. Let's talk about dignity. Okay, when he first grabbed you and raped you, there was nothing you could have done. He caught you out there. Nobody you really could have called. This was in a house. He banged you out. He raped you. He violated you. But now he's gone. You could have picked up the phone and hit 911. You could have told your man what happened. You could have ran home to your family and told them what happened. That's how dignity is restored. So even if the man that's in your life says, oh, I don't know if I want to marry you, I can't deal with this. It's not about him no more. It's about you. It's about dignity. This is what these scriptures are saying. Because you still would have got that man arrested according to the law that we're reading right now. You would have got that man arrested. That man would have been put to death according to this law that we're reading right now. And you would have got on with your life. And he already told you, the Lord has said you did nothing wrong. Because he forced himself on you. And you cried out. And you did something about it. And even if she didn't cry out, listen, I'll keep it 100 with y'all. Even if she didn't cry out the first time and he raped her. But after that, she still contacted her family or contacted the police. It's the same thing. She's still crying out. Because even if she cried out while he was raping her, wasn't nobody going to help her because wasn't nobody there to help her. But she still cried out afterwards. You understand? And that's the dignity. There's nothing wrong with that person. But the one that held it all in, talking about, well, I don't know, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You don't even know if that's going to happen. You just talking about that's going to happen. All you doing is covering up and covering up. And I bet you if that dude was choking her ass out and beating her up, she would have ran and told somebody. But she didn't tell nobody because there was some part of her that liked that shit. Even though it was fucked up. It was some part of her that liked, and that's why it went on so long. And that's why the guy would be right in her husband or whatever he was in the same house, the very next room, and she's still in there getting busy. And not just getting busy, getting raped, she was doing everything the dude wanted to do. He had took his hands off her and she was still going in. So we see the wisdom of God. I definitely got clarity. I want to thank God for the clarity. Thank you, Lord. So she would be found guilty, y'all. So we can make any excuse in the book or whatever else. And again, now, if you really believe the word of God, like what that female told me, look, I'm going to go wherever I want to. I'm going to travel anywhere I want to, but I keep Trojans in case somebody rapes me. Okay, but according to this scripture, maybe you should be a little bit more considerate of how you're traveling and when you're traveling. Now, you can't do everything. I mean, you can't protect yourself 100%, but you don't have to be everywhere. Because, like, you got to understand what you're saying. You're saying that you're hanging out in locations where it's a good chance you'll probably get raped. So you better have some Trojans. So what locations are you hanging out in that you're already ready for the rape when it comes? Because that's what she told me. So, again, this is what I'm trying to tell you about why Bible study is important. Because if you really believe this God of the Bible, you will be having Bible studies. And that Bible study and the Holy Spirit will be renewing your mind. Romans chapter 12. Because if you don't renew your mind, what you're talking is your own fleshly opinions. And also this world is filled with demons and devils and spirits. And that's why most of these people think like that. And that's what you're dealing with, wicked ass spirits. Because to me, that's wicked as fuck that you're getting screwed in the very next room, and the person you're supposed to be in love with is in the very next room, and you're getting banged out, and you're doing all kind of freaky stuff to this guy, and he raped your ass. You know what I'm saying? So why don't you want to get revenge? Why don't you want to see this guy fry? Why don't you want to see him arrested? Why don't you want to see this guy go to jail for whatever? Why don't you want to see anything happen to this guy? So it's just something freaky going on with her as well, that she obviously is something about it that she likes that's turning her on. And like I said, I told y'all, a lot of times a person might feel, well, it's my man's fault I got raped. He didn't protect me. He shouldn't have left me here alone. He should have made sure this house was secure that nobody could get inside of it. And why now this guy is here with me? Why is he leaving me in the room with this guy? So it might be some of her that feels angry at him. Like, why are you leaving me in the room with this guy? You don't even look like you're jealous. So now I'm going to give you something to be jealous about. You don't know that. But then nobody's saying why she didn't cry out. But according to the Bible, she's guilty because she didn't cry out. And for that, she would be put to death. Now, verse 28. Now remember, the word bethoth, I think it means being promised to be married to somebody. So she could be like a fiance or something like that. Now here goes another case. If a man finds a damsel that is a virgin, which is not bethoth, in other words, she's not promised in marriage to anybody else, and he lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her. So God said, if you sleep with her, and that she ain't married to nobody, she ain't bethoth to nobody, she's not promised to nobody in marriage, and you went out in the field and took her like a damn caveman, so now you're going to pay her daddy some money for her, and now she got to be your wife. And he said he may not put her away all his days. A man shall not take his father's wife, nor discover his father's skirt. And he said that at the end. See, verse 30 don't have nothing to do with verse 28 and 29. But God sort of need to put it in there for a reason. And plus, sometimes it's not even God, it's the people that translated the scriptures. So now somebody going to say, well, that's a little crazy. So are you telling me that God said it's okay to be a caveman, to run up on a woman? And he didn't even say if it was in the field or in the city. So it looked like he just said if you just run up on her, lay hold on her, lie with her, and they be found. But y'all got to understand, don't add too much to verse 28 and 29. Because I'm sure if a man saw a woman and like kidnapped her or something, he'd have to pay for that. You know, I'm sure. See, a lot of times they would have to take certain cases to the elders. So to me, this is like if a man was walking somewhere and saw a woman and just wanted her and grabbed her. But now what you notice is it ain't no force. Like he didn't say force though. See, the word force ain't 28, 29. So don't say the guy that's saying it's okay to just grab a woman and take her as long as you pay her daddy 50 shekels and marry her. That's not what God is saying, because he ain't saying nothing about no force or nothing like that. So it's kind of like they rushed into it. And that happens a lot. See, I told y'all, in Israel back in the day, if you laid with a female, you might as well go ahead and marry her. And also, even if y'all wasn't laying together, but if y'all was together all the time, like if you had a female you was always with, they gonna tell y'all to go ahead and get married, because you can't do that kind of stuff in Israel, because it's holy. God is holy and they holy. So that's what it's basically talking about. In verse 28 to 29, this is a man that came up on a woman and he wanted that. He wanted to hit it, and she let him do it. It wasn't rape. He wanted to hit it. She let him do it, and now y'all got to go ahead and pay that 50 shekels and go ahead and get married. Go ahead and get married. Say, well, it was just a booty call. Well, too bad. That's a booty call, and now it's going to be called marriage. Don't call it a booty call. Call it a marriage. Because they're holy. Israel is holy, and you can't do that unholy stuff in Israel. Yeah, so like I said, it would be hard. I think she would have to be put to death, y'all. And I'm sorry because she was raped, and I feel for her. I really do. I really do. But here's the deal. When you really love God more than yourself, like I do, you put God first. So you wouldn't be scared. You would do what God said. And people get mad when I say that, but that's because they love themselves more than God. So a female says, I'm not screaming nowhere. This nigga got his hand around my neck. I'm not dying out here. I'm not dying. I'm gonna do whatever he tell me to. I don't care. And that's because you're thinking fleshly. Because what you don't understand is maybe if you did scream out or cry out, it might be somebody that hear that and come save you. Or I know a whole bunch of females that fought. Now, if you notice that none of these scriptures say the female should have fought. None of these scriptures said the female should have fought. But the bottom line is this. I know females that have fought and they didn't get raped because they wasn't giving it up. Not like you ain't taking shit from me fighting. And the nigga ran. the rapist ran and shit. So that's why I said I know God. I've been walking with God for decades. I know what God's saying is true, but whenever you get to humans always try to do it their way. And the more they try to do it their way, the more you see why the wisdom of God is always greater. So I've enjoyed this study. I hope you have too. God bless.